So welcome to this best of five. This is starring TheoRy in the blue Infernal, and red. Or in our red Infernal is Elf. Someone should host a tournament called EU vs NA IVI tournament. I like this idea. The EU players make vaults and brutes and magmadons, and the NA players spam Gaunt Weaver, and we see who wins. I think this is funny. This is a little bit of banter. Of course, Elf has been playing IVI almost all day in these matchups, getting one Vanguard and one Celestial. TheoRy probably also having to play a lot of IVI. But in the European version of this tournament, we saw players like Elaser and Snockstar and MSRM who are really strong European Infernal, and they have a slightly different style. They like to play differently. And that's what Elf was commenting on there, saying maybe there should be a IVI tournament between the Europeans and the North Americans and see which style of IVI is actually better. And as an Infernal player who actually likes the mirror match, I kind of think that would be cool, even though I think a lot of people would find that very boring. So here we have out creeping the map. We got Elf doing her normal thing, trying to creep that speed camp first, while we have TheoRy creeping his health camp first, which on this map, that's the traditional meta. You go for your health camp first. Interesting play to use his Hexen to tank there. His Hexen now low. This is always getting a healing cabbage to get back up to full. Of course, TheoRy knows the way to do it, because I would say it's rough having a low Hexen on the map. And here we're getting a conflict over this vision camp right away. And this is sort of interesting that, people say these games can be kind of boring because all we see at the beginning are just creeping on your side of the map. Well, we've seen a lot of this meta here today where there's fighting over a vision camp on this and on Broken Crown. Both players putting their farms there. And both eagerly trying to fight over these creeps, trying to get last kills, while also trying to get kills on the others. And we're seeing, that was a GG already out of Elf. That was a really fast GG, as we're just starting to see her Gaunt count get whittled away, and TheoRy getting that initial lead, and that lead in the early game can be enough to snowball over. So very fast game one. All right, here we are again in game number two after a very quick win out of this player, the Red Infernal TheoRy, getting the Gaunt lead early after a nice skirmish in the Vision Camp. And here we have our blue player, Elf, who wants to get a game off TheoRy so she can get back into this best of five. Of course, it is a best of five, so only down one game so far. Plenty of games to get back into it. And I like this. TheoRy kind of knowing what's going to happen here, saying, I'm going to try and harass that imp as it comes out. Now, unfortunately, the imp still managed to get the farm down, and these shadow demons are not going to aggro on top of that farm. So, nice idea, but not really getting the return on that investment. While Elf was able to march right up into the base, see that there is a vault, and there is a conclave, and knowing what build her opponent's doing, she's got a single conclave out, and her gaunts are heading out to do her pretty standard creeping. We've seen her on this map several times already tonight, and she's done this style every game. Very well practiced build, and unfortunately, wow, those fiends, she's trying to run away, but those fiends getting on top of her gaunts, and TheoRy getting a real nice early lead there as well. That's two gaunts down, but TheoRy only has fiends with him over here. Gaunts are okay against fiends. They do pretty good damage against them if you have enough gaunts to kind of melt the fiends, but that's definitely more fiends than you want. Now we've got an interesting... We've got TheoRy creeping the camp, but it is Elf's Fell Hogs. So TheoRy focused, interesting, he focused on the creep that was not being attacked by the Fell Hogs, and then the one that was. I'm sure there was a reason there. Probably to let those Fellhawks tank for him for a little bit longer. Now the Hexen going down for Elf. Elf has an effigy, but now it's gone on Gaunt Micro. And we have 2 versus 2. We got one. I think we had Plague Axes out of Theory. No, actually, it doesn't look like we have Plague Axes out of either of them. Theory's Gaunts here. Now they're attacking this, but we have rallying Gaunts from Elf. That unfortunately those split brute onto those fiends is enough DPS to take those Gaunts out. But with some great micro, she was able to take out one of the Gaunts, and now there's going to be another Gaunt. I love this battle. They're just rallying their units that they make one after another right out there. Those fiends taking down the Gaunts, but more Gaunts arriving. 4 Gaunts. That's what I'm talking about, melting fiends. That's the Gaunt numbers you want, and now that's going to push Theory back. And in this little skirmish here over the Vision Camp, we've had some really interesting damage dealt by both players, but it looks like Elf's coming out on top, clearing out that effigy. But Theory's saying, "I'm going to keep an effigy there," and she really wants to deal with it. So about to take that out. Still no Plague Axes or either of them. So these effigies just creating Shroud Skin for them at the moment. Nice split and I don't think that was a split, an active split actually. That was just a dead Gaunt or a dead Brute. But managing to get a kill on a Gaunt, a weak Gaunt. And Theory going out to giving up this position and going to creep zone camp. I was going to go back and check here. Did she add another Conclave? And I could kind of tell by the flow of Gaunts that she must have. And meanwhile, back here, we've still got a Ritual Chamber on the way. Well, yeah, actually, it's Ritual Chamber for both of them on the way. The timing is slightly ahead for Elf. Nothing that's probably going to matter very much. We've got Brutes and Gaunts and Gaunts and Gaunts. Gaunts and Gaunts are all we have up here, and Brutes and Gaunts. I thought she had more Gaunts, but maybe she stopped producing after the skirmish was over so she could get her second base down. And now we've got this army from Theory pushing out and trying to clear out the farm and the effigies down on this side of the map, or over on this Vision Camp, because Elf is moved herself out of position up here. Of course, not something that he necessarily knows, but definitely taking advantage of it. And we notice no second base out of Theory yet. So this base is, well, at the moment, it is a kind of risky investment. But if it gets up, it can be exactly what Elf needs to win this game. This farm getting a little bit of focus, but now Theory's moving into Elf's main. But Elf regathering her Gaunts together, which is good, but I don't like this fighting in the choke. It's better for Theory than it is for Elf. He's got those brutes that can kind of hold the choke, and well, he pushes out, and these Gaunts are able to stutter step back a little bit, managing to kill off those brutes, although the split brutes tried to get on top of the Gaunts, do some damage, but Elf's micro definitely been paying off more here. Getting a couple of infested kills, so she's got some fiends on the map now, and actually pushing Theory back. Yeah, I think part of the problem here was half of Theory's army was left back here fighting effigies or that farm. I think it killed that farm, and while he was fighting up ahead there, she had her whole army fighting up against his smaller sort of strike force that broke off, and that's how she got the advantage. Not to mention she had Defender's advantage and a better reinforce. And now she's pushing across the map, cleaning up the effigies of Theory, and just not even stopping to capture towers, just moving straight on into the base. And Theory is well, he's got a nice little army here. Again, Defender's advantage is now on his side. He can reinforce into this, but we're seeing a lot more Gaunts out of Elf, and her little fiend force there is a nice little tanking force for those Gaunts. They won't last super long if they get in a toe-to-toe battle, but it's just enough that her Gaunts can be doing damage to the brutes or the other Gaunts. Now we see her getting pushed away here. Again, another little strike force of theory. I don't like that. Unfortunately, getting out ahead could have been caught ahead and taken out again. He really needs to regroup those units together to engage as one force against her Gaunt force so that they can't just focus fire those units down, get some fiends and snowball. She's chosen to move back. I think this is just part of the creep timing. As creep camps refresh like this, it's common to go back and take them out. You get the additional income. You get the boosted reward. It sort of gets more and more important as you go on in the game, even though later in the game is when you often see creep camps not being captured as much because there's far more interaction between armies, harass, and battles right out on the map. So it looks like this battle is going to continue for this vision camp. This is where this game started, and now we have both armies moving up here. We had a pretty good concave there from Elf. Oh, a very nice Nightfall infestation. That was a good zoning one, which she didn't walk out of, and so the slow power just slowed them down. Lots of infests there on Elf's units. She's good micro to not let any of them go down with that infest debuff. It's still on there. It must be a very long debuff. And now it looks like it's just going to be Gaunt versus Gaunt, and the Gaunt number count here is definitely in Elf's favor, but we have a Meg on the field. Amazing splits out of Elf. Wow, like AI or something splitting. Okay, these Gaunts in the back here are a little bit out of position, but they'd rather fight Brutes than this Meg. Meg versus Fiends, fine. Meg's pretty good against Fiends, but I'd rather my Fiends be going down to the Meg than my Gaunts. A little bit of just sort of chaos in that micro battle there, but unfortunately for TheoRy, the Meg and the Brutes were not enough. We're going to get a GG out of TheoRy, so that's a game apiece. Let's move into game 3. All right, here we are in game 3 between Elf here in the Red Infernal and her opponent, TheoRy, in the Blue Infernal. We have had 2 games already, one apiece. TheoRy winning a very fast first game, and Elf managing to win a real scrappy battle in that last game and hold on to her early advantage and finish him off in the mid game there. So a nice first 2 games here. And an interesting little scrappy beginning of this one too, as the Hexen trade blow in the middle of the map, and it looks like it's Elf's Hexen that's going to keep... Well, she saw that imp and thought maybe I'll go for it, but instead moves across the map where she meets up. Hey, didn't I just see you somewhere? You look familiar to me. And then she does the hokey pokey to get out. Shaking her booty is the way her magic works. I don't know if you know that about the Hexen. And there we've got double conclave, it looks like, coming out of Elf. Well, and a very similar mirrored build out of TheoRy. Pretty common at the highest level for Gaunt play in the IVI. And it looks like both players opting for that. If you're not going double conclave, at least in these North American Infernals, as we saw Elf quipping about earlier, you usually go Vault Conclave if you're not going double conclave. You might... I don't see as much double Vault in the IVI. Even though that's my preferred build, and you might know that's why I have been losing MMR this patch. I've just been not playing the meta. And we've got our first Creeping Force out of Elf. I like that she went for 4 of her Gaunts this time instead of just 2. I think when you have 2 on this cap, it can be tricky, especially if you don't got a farm. With a farm, you can do it. And same thing it looks like over here for TheoRy. He's got 6 now. And do we have 2 more being added to this? Doesn't look like it. We do have an imp here positioned to Expo. And yeah, Shrine going down. So deviation from our strategies now. Okay, it looks like it's only a slight deviation, which is we went for 6 Gaunts before our Shrine, whereas Elf cut Gaunts at 4 before going for her Shrine. And that might make a major difference or no difference at all. That's the kind of build order difference that as time goes on, we're going to get more and more knowledge about which is stronger, if either. I think building the extra gaunts just allows you to be a little bit more aggressive on your creeping, which is what we do see TheoRy doing. And that might be enough to offset any lost income from the earlier shrine. So, not really sure. I don't think it's really going to make a big difference. Because now both of them are massing up a few more gaunts. We're up to, looks like 10 gaunts over here for TheoRy. And 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So both of them sort of keeping pace with each other. We've got Elf knocking down these trees and then building a farm. And going in to take this Luminite camp. So different strats out of these two already. Different ways they like to play this map, I guess. Titan's Causeway is another one of those maps that's been right around since the beginning. I haven't been in the playtest for much longer than just the early access period. But this map has had a lot of time for players to figure out metas and figure out what their preferred playstyle is. Skullashetta over here trying to... Well, if you moved a little bit further, you might... Oh, I was going to say you could capture, but these fell hogs there are... and it looks like TheoRy's now going to knock down his trees only to find this Luminite camp has already been claimed. Skullashetta seeing there's no expo over there. Two conclaves, ritual. Plague axes just finishing up here. Ritual here, plague axes just a smidgen behind. And that's the kind of mirrored gameplay that we've been seeing out of these two so far in this series. But both of them really well practiced in these matchups. So there is a pain in the butt meat farm going down here for TheoRy. That's a pain in the butt because it's not going to do anything. Well, there we got a nice cancel. So didn't really do much, but also didn't really lose much in terms of resources. TheoRy trying to check, is there a base here? Nope, none yet. But also tattling on himself. That's the kind of move that you see out of a player. I'm going to go look for your third while I'm trying to put down my third. I don't think Elf saw that, so not really tattling on himself in the sense that he's given away his position. But that's the kind of psychological behavior that you'll find, which is, I'm putting down my third. Maybe I should go see if my opponent is as well. And if you see your opponent scouting your third, and you have not yet scouted theirs, that's a good indication to do that. Now look at this big old gaunt ball coming out of Elf. She's got one thing on her mind, and that is gaunts. And TheoRy is saying, ditto, I like gaunts too. Although just a quick old eyeball count, I think I'm seeing more in Elves. One day soon, I'm sure we will have observer tabs that will tell me what kind of units each player has, what kind of units lost, all those wonderful things that we had built in to the observer tours of some of our other favorite games. Of course, I will remind us that those observer tools did not show up in the beta. They did not show up even in Wings of Liberty. They didn't show up until Heart of the Swarm, if I remember correctly. So I will be patient. I will be patient and happily cast games in this current state, because these observer tools that I have right now are already 10 times better than they were before 0.1 on 0.02. So if they keep upgrading them like that as we go, we will have beautifully wonderful observer tools by the time we get to full release at 1.0. A lot of posturing so far around this third base. Elf's trying to make sure she can get it up and get the income out of it after she's invested in it. Whereas TheoRy, it looks like, is trying to find a way to deny it. And while Elf moved her whole army up here, which is out of position, we now have TheoRy has an opportunity to move down the ramp and take out this Shroudstone at the very least, but also focus. And that's a lot of DPS going down on that. And even though Elf maneuvered back, she's lost this base, and I think this is probably wise to just say, you know, that base is gone. Let's surrender it and maybe fight somewhere that's a little bit more advantageous. We get one pole, one lash going down on a weaver, so one weaver going down for TheoRy. Although he's got 4 weavers in his ball and Elf's got 2. That was a pretty good concave, but we see Elf moving out of it, getting caught in another Nightfall infestation. Nice micro to try and get those infested gaunts to move back a little bit. But now moving back from that position, which I think is wise, as I said, she's already lost it. There's not really much to fight over there. Doing a little creep in, and it looks like both teams trying to reclaim their speed camps, getting that buff. Fiend's now heading out. What's their goal here? I think it was to capture that tower, but it refreshed, I believe, right before they got there. And okay, interesting. We got Vault, we got Hellforge. I think this is just long distance mining imps that decided to build a building wherever they were standing. So recreeping, but with a giant old ball of gaunts like this, you're gonna have a pretty easy time. More weavers on TheoRy side, and TheoRy using that Harbinger to drop a permanent effigy. And I think this is just going to become more and more meta. Now, I might micro my dudes just a wee bit more than that. That's what you might call a terrible concave. But maybe also not caring, because those gaunts could quite easily deal with that. Some fiends here doing a little scout by. Not really a run by, just a scout. Oh, it looks like they were maybe on patrol. And now getting cleaned up by just, well, small force here. Fiends doing a run by here, but finding a bunch of fell hogs that chase them away, as well as a whole army of TheoRy. And TheoRy now taking this Therium camp as well. Looks like also a Therium camp going down over here for Elf. So both players pushing their expansions along that sort of bottom side and top side. Not going necessarily for those middle ones, at least after having hers denied already. And one thing about these top and bottom sides, allows you to position your army in these sort of more aggressive defensive positions, where if your opponent did have a base here, you can often siege it from the high ground. And you can also choose to push into your opponent's base, again, if it was right there, or it's their natural, from this sort of more forward defensive position. And as you move your bases sort of more and more along, as we see now TheoRy building another base here, you can keep moving your army closer and closer to your opponent's base. So I was looking down here thinking this is maybe where Elf's army was, but it's just for Therium miners. In fact, her army's chilling back here in the health camp. And now TheoRy, I guess, is moving across to the other side of the map, trying to be aggressive, seeing this shrine trying to go down with his little scouts, and maybe wanting to deny this Therium base over here. In fact, he's suggesting to his team, let's head this way. Of course, being a misclick with some of those pings that you can put on the map. Landing his Harbinger again to get some Shroud. And then pushing forward, we got a Shroud Stone Manifest. Weaver's moving out on top of that. Extra speedy on the Shroud, of course. While we now have the army of Elf showing up. The Shroud Stones and Static Defense only being able to hold for so long. The army now fighting on the low ground up this ramp. This is not great for Elf. A lot of her Gaunts just standing in the back of there, not firing. But those Hellborn are actually helping a little bit. One's in the front line. One Hellborn's, I think, got lashed up there. But so far is saying, look at me, I'm basically a Magmadon. I'm not really sure who's winning here. Most of what we saw here was damage going down on Weavers, and all those Weavers go down. And now a move command from TheoRy was not good as he moved his army right on top of those Gaunts. And the Hellborn in the back of both of these armies. It's hard to see who's really winning. I think Elf is coming out on top as she pushes her forces up the ramp, and now seeing a snowball of fiends coming out, killing one of those Hellborns and chasing TheoRy's army back. So didn't look like a great engage from Elf, but I'm not sure what drove that. Her units on the bottom of that ramp were somehow able to get traction and move up the ramp. A drop of Hellborns. That was a curious frontline Hellborn drop. That was probably a mistake. Maybe trying to get the stun effect out of the Harbinger. That Hellborn in the front also still going down. The Hellborn in the back for Elf are actually doing a great job firing, but we have a Dragon from TheoRy. Breathing down that Infest on top, trying to move back, so not getting focus fire down. I think that was probably good. A Magmadon came out of TheoRy and getting on top of these Gaunts, but the Gaunts and the Fiend Force just being too much and pushing TheoRy back into his natural. There's a Shroud Stone there, allowing to give a little bit of extra natural D. Some Fellhogs running out of these farms. The Dragon on top trying to really get some traction. Another Infest Breath coming down, but just not able to really get enough. And this force from Elf just pushing further and further back. We see now Fiends taking out this Hellborn. Those Weavers trying to do what they can, but unfortunately wasting their damage on Fiends. You want them, focusing down something a little bit more tanky because they're 10% damage. Do it on something with lots of health and it's worthwhile. What's this Weaver doing? This Weaver was doing absolutely nothing there. Not even fighting the units near. I'm not sure what that was about. Maybe a bug. And, well, maybe some troll Shadow Flyers come in here just saying, we even got stuff for your dragon. GG from TheoRy as he's pushed into his main. So this was a real fun third game. Let's move into game 4. Okay, here we are back into game 4 of this best of 5 that was played out in the loser brackets. I think this is the loser bracket finals of the Logitech Plays. And this is starring, of course, Elf in the Red Infernal and Blue Infernal that's TheoRy in the Blue Infernal. Okay, messed that one up. But what do we got coming out of them? We're on Furious Resolve, a real big map, newly added. And it looks like double conclave coming out of these two, just slightly different positioning. So once again, same style of play out of these two. And both of them, well, we get a scout here out of Elf, able to see those conclaves. And it looks like TheoRy was able to do the same thing. Getting that scout out. Although, maybe he was just trolling this camp a little bit. Interestingly, he's just walking home. He's decided, my Hexen needs the exercise. She's gone, well, she needed a cabbage, it looks like what she needed. And she needed to chill out by this effigy and hang out in the woods. Get a little shade, hang out in the shroud, do her thing. Meanwhile, we've got Elf and a couple of Gaunts. These Shadow Demons they were just smoking that farm. And I think Elf is like just waiting for another Fellhog or something. Those poor Fellhogs are like, I'm going to spawn and then go straight into aggro mode. Not cool. Elf, I think, is saying, let's let those Fellhogs figure themselves out and maybe get the speed camp, but she's going to find that TheoRy's already here, and TheoRy's got a couple Fiends, which is not great, because those Fiends are maybe doing the difference here. We're seeing Elf's Gaunts go down. Oh no, that's... her Hexen is not going to get away, or maybe not quite. No. Wow, nice little micro. Her Fiends were able to keep the other Fiends off, and now TheoRy is going to teleport away. And a brave Hexen from Elf pushing forward on top of these Gaunts and trying to focus fire them down while she's got them separated from the rest of her army, or rest of TheoRy's army, I should say. And now, unfortunately, it's 5 Gaunts on top, and they're going to go for that Hexen, take that Hexen out. And now these Gaunts overextended, trying to pull back to some other Gaunts up here who are doing a little creeping. And unfortunately, again, a missed micro there. That Gaunt turned to fight and was able to get hit with a skull and turns into a fiend. Traitorous Gaunt turning into a fiend for the other side. And that last Shadow Massive taken out by TheoRy and fighting over that effigy. So Elf got an interesting little harass there, managed to kill off some of the units, which was great. I'm not sure if it was a even trade or if she got ahead with that. Coming back to the Vision Camp, managing to get one of the Shadow Demons, but now TheoRy's here to push her back, killing one of her Gaunts, but then pulling back because most of his lead Gaunts are all weak, one going down to a Fellhound there. But he is able to take out this farm, which momentarily supply box Elf. And loses the Gaunt. Yeah, too many weak Gaunts here. Hard to micro them all back. And managing to take out that Shadow Demon and claim the Vision Camp. What do we have there? Oh, it was an effigy that remained. And what's this? Lead farm. No expo out of either of them yet. Just Gaunt production. And we're on 9 Gaunts there. And it looks like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So TheoRy just pulling a little bit ahead in the Gaunt count. And moving cross map. This is a nice aggressive play. Maybe hoping to get on top of Elf's Gaunts and maybe take some of them out. And instead just finding a free camp to creep. And then get on top of the healing camp and get to fight Elf. This is not good. You do not want to fight in the... Oh, no, 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 no. And that's a GG well played out of Elf. So that's game 4. That means we're going to game 5. All right, and we are back. We are now in game 5 between TheoRy in the Red Infernal and Elf again in the Blue Infernal. And we've seen these two play 4 pretty interesting games already. For the most part, they've been sticking to the same strategies because I think both of them have been winning and realizing, hey, my strategy does work as long as I just execute it properly. So both staying committed to that. We almost got mirrored plays. Both of the, that was a imp there putting down a farm, and it looks like we do have an imp here also going to put down a farm at the Vision Camp. It's really cool to see how this meta has changed over the last few weeks. Do farms at the Vision Camp instead of at the Health Camp. And I think some of that meta change has come due to the changes in the creep camps. And both of them getting their scout and doing their dance to get home at the same time. This is the kind of symmetry you see in pro level play like this. Both of them have their builds down so well that they can execute them at the same time, and we see them sort of going in a synchronous form. Although we do have TheoRy getting out onto his creeping just a wee bit quicker. Elf is just now getting to her camp. And we're seeing a pretty good, Skull of Shadow control. We got 3 fiends out of that one, so that's good micro. It looks like 1 fiend here, although looks like the micro's a little bit more of a pain in the butt for Elf over here. She's had to micro her fiends and her Gaunts back. Sometimes you just get lucky with the aggro and other times you don't. Now we got the Vision Camp already being taken by TheoRy. Again, getting a little ahead in his creeping, meaning he's getting that income from these units just a little bit faster. Not to mention the passive bonus that you get from the capturing the towers. And now he's getting his shrine down just a wee bit. Oh, I've never seen him kind of hanging out in that little hole in the ground before. That's kind of cool. But yeah, this shrine is delayed. Not so much delayed as just being later than TheoRy's because of the creep income that TheoRy was able to get from that early creeping advantage. I think another thing that Elf had to do after taking the health camp was soak her Gaunts in the healing juices for a bit because they had been tanking a bit more. And okay, a couple extra Gaunts added here before TheoRy moves on, it looks like, to his energy camp. So now we have Elf being a little bit catching up, I guess, and maybe getting a little ahead. Unfortunately losing a fiend there. Not wanting to lose that Gaunt, micros it back. Micros both her fiends back. See, A lot of micro here trying to keep her units alive. When they keep switching to those weak units, unfortunately losing one fiend, but I count that as not an issue. I lose fiends to camps all the time. And TheoRy creeping the camp just a slightly behind, and we see Elf moving out to her Luminite camp, and again, pretty much lockstep here. They're really close in supply, although TheoRy taking a small supply lead there. And not really the best force for creeping this camp, but because you can glitch them out like this, not bad. And this elf this imp of elf, that's what I was trying to say, this imp, moving right through the battle, being like, don't mind me, just here to do some lumberjack. I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. And chops down the trees, and then's like, I'm gonna throw down a farm. And it looks like a couple of fiends scouting each other. Well, we also have an imp lumberjack over here, but again, looks like TheoRy has fallen behind in the creeping, meaning it looks like Elf is now the one who's getting ahead in the income. Trying to glitch out this camp as well. Although these the ranged creeps, you can't glitch them out. Taking out this camp, getting a little bit of head start, as TheoRy's just taking out the Luminite camp here. And Elf moving her forces back. I'm going to say remaining forces because she lost a couple of gaunts out there creeping. And maybe we'll see the same thing here. Yeah, one gaunt going down here. So same thing. It's kind of hard to keep all your stuff alive in these creep camps. These creeps just hit harder, and especially when you're creeping with gaunts, they're just squishy, squishy, squishy. Interesting. We got another lumberjack imp up here in the middle, and interesting placing. Of course, the obvious placing is put your shrine right here. The benefit of this is the shroud will not extend as far as this vision camp can see. If you put it right in the middle, the vision camp's going to see the shroud, but now the shroud will not be detected unless Elf moves her army to this side of the shrine. So that's the idea there, keeping it hidden for as long as possible. Little scout fiend though out on the map, hoping to see what it can see. Another scout fiend over here. Actually, this fiend's got more than a scout job. This fiend's out here capturing Luminite towers. And this is cheeky. Standing right in the middle there and capturing both towers at the same time. And TheoRy's army guarding this shrine, it looks like. Maybe there was a scout in there, and so he's wary about a push from Elf. Elf, though, just hanging out on her vision. This scout fiend going in to see that, yeah, there is a third base going down here. But the Fellhogs take it out. Rather, it got away. I thought the Fellhogs got it. No, it skirted away over here. And Elf's like, where did that pesky thing go? There he was, hiding in the light trees. And she's going to go out, it looks like, and creep some more, but she's got her Health Forge going down. That's for some upgrades. Well, her Ritual Chamber is likely already finished. The Plague Axe and Reaper's Rush. And now we get another shrine. So I like this. He's got it down, got a defensive spire, and he's started mining. He's like, you know what? Now that I've got this position, I'm going to really take this position. It looks like this effigy out here also spread shroud to far enough that the vision cap should be able to see it. Notice, of course, you can't see that on the mini map, so the only way that Elf's going to be able to see that is if she actually moves her camera over here and looks. Couple Hellborn? Okay, so these Hellborn are moving to clear the trees, so she must know that there's something over there now, and we see, yeah, effigies. Oh, okay, interestingly, they didn't take out the trees, they go for the camp instead. Well, now we see some trees going down, and this army from TheoRy pushing out onto the Shroud Stone here. No cancel on that Shroud Stone, but we are getting some AoE damage from the Hellborn. Now, they do pretty good. They're unupgraded right now. I hear... Oh, and that Magmadon saying, you're going to not use those trees as defense. And the Weavers pull the Hellborn in. Get stunned. A double lash. That's a little unfortunate. I think you want the second one to go on the other Hellborn at the back, which is still raining down fire. One Hellborn in the back for each now. But it looks like a larger ball of Gaunts. But a lot of the Gaunts for Elf are wandering around in the back. So even though there's a lot of them, they're not attacking. And now it looks like it's the same thing for TheoRy. A lot of his Gaunts in the back are not being able to get an attack. And just lots of micro and repositioning. I think there's getting a better concave out of TheoRy here. And yeah, pushing Elf back. This is very interesting. We got Shroud Stones on both sides here. A Manifest Shroud Stone aggressively here. And we have Shroud Stones defensively on these shrines while we have some offensively from Elf. I think that's just a nice forward attack base for her to return back to as she needs to. Her reinforcements now coming in, cleaning up a nice concave on the bottom, but the concave on the top is in favor of TheoRy, who's able to whittle away that side of her forces, and Elf having to pull back to her Cloud Stones again, or actually just repositioning at the top to try and clean up that force. So both players here are sort of trying to reposition their Gaunts to get the better position, get the better concave. These two Weavers for TheoRy, I think it's hard to keep track now whose units are whose, are actually doing a great job of tanking. Again, now the concave on the bottom is falling in TheoRy's favor, while the one on the top falling in Elf's favor. So both of them are trading units here. And it's really hard to see who's going to come out on top. I think very slowly, though, Elf's units are kind of pushing TheoRy back further into his static D, into his units. We're now seeing Hellborn again being added for both players. Both of them called in some new Hellborn. And really nice, some Flame Imps coming out of TheoRy. If anything, I would say that this is one of his signature moves. He's always researches Flame Imps. And if you ever move into one of his expansions, he says, I'm not going to just let you kill my imps. I'm going to turn them into fireballs and blast you. And I think those flame imps are what turned the tide here, in fact. The Gaunts and the Weavers, of course, cleaning up, but it's because the flame imps were able to wipe out that sort of Gaunt ball that had formed for Elf. Elf got pushed back to her static D. A nice Nightfall infestation going down on top of those Gaunts for TheoRy. Those Gaunts are probably going to go down, but another Shroud Stone manifests here. Nice way to get a little extra DPS, and the Shroud Stones are doing the extra work that just push TheoRy back. Another Shroud Stone manifest for TheoRy as well, both of them. But this one Hellborn focusing the Shroud Stone for Elf, and the Shroud Stone is going to go down. At Hellborn, now the Gaunts of Elf feel that they can move forward. These two a little bit misrallied. But no, the Hellborns may be saying, let's try and take out Static V. This Hellborn misrallied, moving right into these Gaunts. Super brave, then realizing, wait a second, I'm a rear warrior. I should be standing in the back. This Hellborn knowing where her position is. And again, a lot of back and forth here. I think Elf wants to let that Hellborn do the damage. And if the army ever tries to move up, another Nightfall infestation, if the army tries to move up, then she moves her own army in. But these Gaunts back on top, nice teleport of Weavers from the production up to this shrine. The Weavers can teleport, and despite being slow, that's one way that you can get them to help in a defense situation like this. And now a nice kind of split and concave coming out of Elf, although she's maybe deciding she doesn't have quite enough units to push in there, and moves back, and now making a small ball that she can stutter step around and attack the edge of the concave for TheoRy. Now one of TheoRy's Weavers moving too far ahead and getting overextended. Another Manifest Shroud Stone out of TheoRy, and now TheoRy's pushing back into the Shroud Stones of Elf. I'm not sure that's super great, because once he's there, he's taking that extra DPS. and it's he who's taking the costly losses. Some more Flame Imps getting up there, killing some Brutes and Gaunts. And another Manifest Shroudstone out of Elf, managing to take out that lead Shroudstone from TheoRy. And again, this is a crazy battle here over the middle that I feel like if either player pulls back for too long, this is the end of the game. So both of them just committing all their forces to this. That Hellborn, ooh, now getting lashed. Not getting taken out though. Managing to move her way back into safety. Another Nightfall Infestation going down for TheoRy. I'd like to see some more of those. Elf, I think, has been saving hers for Shroudstone Manifest. I'm not sure where the rest of her Animus has been going actually. Maybe into Hellfire Resurgences. And, well, TheoRy's getting a little bit of advantage here, although the Fiends spawning out of Elf are causing a bit of a problem. TheoRy's units are gathering at the bottom, managing to kill off some of it, and now we see Elf pulling back to her Shroudstones again. She's up to 3 Hellborn now, and that's definitely going to help, because again, as we see, those Hellborn can just fire from the back lines, luring that Weaver in, and now that Weaver's taking shots. The splash damage from it as well, landing on those Imps. One thing that Hellborn can do is attack those Imps, and the splash damage is going to spray back onto the units that are hiding behind them. So, as long as those Hellborn are back there firing down, more Weavers teleporting in, and now we get a push out of Elf, trying to push on top some Brutes and Gaunts. With those Hellborn, unfortunately one Hellborn being taken out, the other one trying to retreat back, and nice infestation going down, but missing some of the Gaunts there. And again, these Hellborn managing to take out these Static D. Although, nice little flank, moving in on the Hellborn, one going down, but Fiends coming in and pushing back. And now that's sort of the signal for Elf to push in. More Flame Imps coming out. Taking out more Gaunts. But these Brutes are looking pretty devastating. Another forward Shroudstone out of Elf. This one being uncontested at the moment. More Flame Imps. Good split from Elf, actually. Now that she sees those Flame Imps, she's trying to split away. And now TheoRy loses that central shrine, being pushed all the way back to this initial shrine he has here, which is still allowing him to gain income out of these bases. But the Hellborn are just raining fire down on these Gaunts, and the tanky Weaver and Brutes up front able to just tank the damage, while these ranged units in the back are getting some really good hits. And I'm not seeing how TheoRy's going to be able to save this, and that's a good game, well played. And that was game 5 from this best of 5. So that means Elf wins the loser bracket finals and moves on to the grand finals. So let's get into those.